Welcome to the South African Digital Marketing Podcast, recorded live at the Digital Marketing Conference. My name is Terence Mentor, and I'm a digital marketer who's wanted to learn more about digital marketing. The best way to learn about digital marketing is to talk to the people who are doing all the things that come with digital marketing. And today, I don't have just one guest. I don't have two guests. I have three guests, which means we have a very full schedule. I'm going to introduce you to them. Lisa Asperling is a marketing and content strategist, a serial entrepreneur who helps founders turn bold ideas into brands with soul. She's built Anago Marketing, The Murder Mystery Guide, Flower Cafe, and most recently, Founders Cafe, and is known for mixing sharp strategy with unforgettable storytelling. Jonathan Liebenberg, who I've been told I can call John T because we're now friends, built an 8-figure SEO agency in his 20s. He sold it to Wow, a SEAL team of 40 digital experts, working with over 500 brands worldwide. As well as head of business development, John T is on a mission to create jobs, grow businesses, and ensure South Africa claims its stake in the AI gold rush. And finally, to my left, Michelle Gear, CEO of AdBot, turning solo marketers into giant slayers with AI-powered Google Ads automation. She's on a mission to prove that the right technology doesn't replace people, it makes small teams unstoppable. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our guests in this episode. If you are hearing those bios and going, oh my word, those are some big hitters, you are right. If you're feeling a bit breathless, now you know how I feel. Let's start with John T. I would really like to focus on three big sections today. We're going to talk about channels, we're going to talk about content, we're going to talk about clients. But let's focus in on channels. There are so many different channels nowadays that digital marketers can be working on. Your team specifically do, it looks like, everything. With so many potential channels, is it possible for a small team to really be everything, everywhere, all at once?
I don't know if you'd want to be. I don't know if that's a good thing. So, I mean, if we look at channels, we're speaking about AI, and we want to start that conversation. The new field that's emerged is AI visibility, or generative engine optimization. GEO is a name that's propped up. Another name that's propped up is AEO, or Answer Everything Optimization, which is a poor attempt. There we go. Now I'm louder. And yeah, I think one of the laziest terms is still SEO, which is search everywhere optimization. So it's these new channels that have now propped up, and there's already this absolute blur of channels. And our audience members and our potential customers and our leads, they've got the attention span of a mite, and they're just in this absolute zeitgeist of, you know, chaos and content getting poured their way. So we don't want to be on every channel all the time. We want to be where they are, where our ICP is spending time, engaging with them and adding value and producing lead magnets in the value that they need and what's going to assist them. So don't be on all the channels. Don't try and be on all the channels. In fact, today's marketing is about saying no and not yes to channels.
I can hear all the marketers in the room going, oh, thank goodness, I'm so glad he said that. But one particular channel that was spoken about already today, a previous guest of the podcast and the previous speaker, Dylan, was talking specifically about websites and the importance of websites. Do you, John T, and maybe Michelle and Lisa as well, do you feel like websites are still relevant in a digital marketing strategy?
Yeah, so I mean, Wow's done websites for 10 years, my team, with a lot of terrific brands around South Africa, around the world, Freedom of Movement, Pretty Casual is another site we've worked on here locally, and then big and enterprise brands. I guess I'm a hammer, so I always see a nail and tell you that you always need a website, and it's more prevalent than ever. But nothing's changed with the new channels that have emerged. So if SEO's evolved, it's still crawling, it's still searching, it's still indexing the same places. How we use them has changed, but the overall structure and the need is more important than ever. And what we're finding is trust, and how we build trust and how trust is then spent in how you engage with a lead is so much more prevalent in a time where people are overwhelmed. And a website's a place where you can create that credibility, where you can tell your story, communicate your narrative, show what you've done, show who you've worked on. So yes, I think websites are more important than ever. But I think you telling your story authentically and what you do appropriately is the best way to use them.
Do you mind if I jump in?
Please jump in.
So you got to love marketers. They are incredibly dramatic. So remember when...
What do you mean?
So when AI just came out, they were like, SEO is dead. And today they're like, websites are dead. And I'm like, you gotta admire it to a degree. So what we've seen with my clients and with some of the industry leads as well is that I don't think it's that dramatic. I don't think websites are dead. But as Janti mentioned, it's how you use it. So strategy changes a little bit, right? So in the beginning, when there was no Facebook, there was only a website, it serviced your awareness channel, it serviced your conversion channel, it serviced everything. And then we got Facebook and we've got more channels. And I think what's happening is that there's just another layer of that channel being added. And so if digital marketers can start thinking about like how consumers use that channel. So they go to the channel, they ask a question, they get information. That is all part of your awareness phase, right? Is your discovery phase. So use that for that purpose. And all the experts in Silicon Valley still use Google Maps. They still use Google to buy the thing that they need to buy. So search is not really going anywhere. But how you use it and where in that funnel you use it, I think, is going to become more and more important. So
websites are still existing, but shifting in its purposes in the marketing strategy. Talking about strategy, though, Lisa, you obviously deal with different clients, different teams, giving content and marketing strategy to them. Are there skills that you recommend your clients would have internally in their marketing group? Like if they have a small marketing team, are there certain skill sets that you just, they have to be successful?
That's a really great question. I think for internal marketing teams and agencies, the basic skill sets are still the same. There's no magical thing that you need to have internally or if you're in an agency. But I would say for internal marketing teams, probably the thing you need to pay the most attention to is being a custodian of your brand, knowing your brand voice, being the guardian of your brand, knowing it inside out. Because when you partner with an agency for skills that are missing in your internal team, they are going to try and push your boundaries, and they're going to try and push you in directions that unless you're really anchored in your understanding of that brand, you're going to drift right off course. And then eventually, worst case scenario, your customers won't recognize you anymore. So I think that's really, really key overall, is to be so close to your brand and so connected that you recognize when an agency is calling for something that's actually not resonating with what you've been building for however many years.
Those scary agents from agencies who are trying to make you do naughty things. But maybe then let's flip to the agency side. What are the skills that marketers within an agency need that might be different from the internal marketer?
Also, such a great question. I would say the agency needs to know that they're there to push the boundaries. So there's kind of like a crazy tension between these two groups if you do find yourself on either side and then partnering with the other group. So if you're in an agency, you need to be mavericks, you need to be pushing the boundaries, being creative. And something that occurred to me, I was listening to, I can't even remember, you know, when you listen to loads of podcasts, there's no way to know where you got the information.
It was the South African Digital Marketing Podcast.
Probably.
That's the only podcast that can be listened to.
As ranking first on Google.
Yes. Exactly. So something that I didn't come up with this, I wish I came up with it. I think we need to have the skill sets of comedians. And so they say that if you are very funny, it's an indicator that you're really intelligent. And the reason that people can be funny is that they are able to draw threads together and pull elements together in a surprising way that no one else has kind of connected those dots. So I would say if you're in an agency kind of space, you too need to have the skill of a comedian. It would be great if you were also funny. That would be super helpful. But I think that ability to see connections where other people are not seeing connections, I think that's going to serve you really, really well. And that can often come from very different places of inspiration. So whether it's, you know, looking at other people's work, or listening to podcasts, I love to consume podcasts, wherever that's coming from, I think to lean into that. And then to also recognize that creativity is not always in your cognitive space. I've been hearing stories from musicians specifically. Paul McCartney has said this, the lead singer, is it Chris Martin? Chris Martin of Coldplay? They've
Yeah.
both, and there's somebody else who said this, and I can't quite remember. They've all mentioned that they went to bed, had a dream, dreamt a song and the lyrics, woke up, and then wrote it down. Or it came to them like not out of their brains, but out of some other kind of ether, the spirit realm maybe. So I think there's an element of that for those of us who are creatives. I think everyone in this room is creative. I think there's a need to push into that space as well, to recognize that creativity is sometimes just gifted to you. It's not something you work up always. So hopefully we all get to that space where, like Paul McCartney, Hey Jude, he literally had a dream. And that song came to him. So yeah, that's the dream for us.
What Lisa is saying is everybody should listen to telepathy tapes right after this.
For me, it's just having a very long shower, which is terrible to do in Cape Town. But I find I'm most creative after minute 11. That's my creative time. Michelle, we were talking earlier. Jonty mentioned that we can't be everywhere all at once. We don't want to be, so we have to be choosing the correct channels, maybe the correct kind of content that we're working on. And to make those choices, we really do need the right kind of measurements to make those decisions. We were talking earlier about the right kind of data, making sure that you're data-led. But how important is it to measure yourself against your competitors? And especially in the South African space where maybe that information isn't readily available, how should we be doing it and how do we do it?
Right, so I absolutely love that question just because we struggled with exactly the same question. And like a true entrepreneur, you find a question and you go like, I am going to find an answer to this question, and you build a business around it. So we have actually used our data set and all the clients that we've worked with, and we created kind of like a benchmark specifically for Google Ads, because that's what we do. And out of that, we discovered that our benchmarks for the local market is completely different to benchmarks overseas. And kind of like that for me is the starting point to answering your questions, is that we're always kind of comparing ourselves to the US or the UK, where those markets are completely different. Our user behavior is completely different. I mean, capitalist versus maybe more kind of like social family orientated, like just even those behaviors is completely different. So I think measuring your business against, or your performance against any of the international spaces, I think is a really bad thing to do. It could be also a very frustrating thing to do. Number one, you don't have the budgets. Number two, it's extremely competitive out there. So my advice to marketers would be to try and find local benchmarks in any form. But benchmarks are a starting point. It's a stick in the ground. It's not really, I would say, what you need to kind of like use as like a Bible. I think that is the starting point, and then start measuring yourself against your own performance. Like once you track over a period of a year, you know where you are kind of like in that space. More reports will come out around benchmarking, and it could be anything, social media, search, whatever. And that could just be kind of like a measure that you're still heading in the right direction. But I think it's very important for South African companies to know we have a strength. That strength is not the same as US, for example, and we have to play to that.
And especially if you are being outperformed by your competitor, maybe it's time to start benchmarking yourself after a year. Jonty, I saw you nod your head, and Lisa, you too. Do you, in your kind of work that you do and the strategies you create, are you finding yourself making those comparisons to competitors, or really are you focusing just on, year on year, quarter on quarter? I can see Lisa's reaching for a microphone.
So my area of expertise is more the content strategy and branding and stories and all of those things. It's not really the going into the back end of Meta, which, let's be honest, everybody hates to do. So I'm never really super concerned with the numbers. I'm concerned with what story is everyone else telling, and what is the point of difference that we can create for this particular brand. So that's kind of the point at which I'm concerned with competitors, is the storytelling side. And there's a lot of very clever people, much cleverer than probably all of us at this table, no offense everyone, who talk about how don't even look at what other people are doing. I feel like, is it Alex Hormozy who said that a lot? Maybe someone else can correct me. But yeah, I kind of subscribe to that. Like, get your vision, see how you're intentionally defining the difference with what you are creating with your brand, and then don't pay too much attention to everyone else. Just do an amazing job with what you feel the right direction for that business is and that brand is.
Yeah, and with data, keep it simple. You know, vanity metrics, there's one, is we drown in them. We love them as marketers because it's something to measure. It's money in the bank. That's the thing to measure. If you've built out all the structural and foundational steps, you know your problem, you know your solution, you know your client, you know the things they're invested in. You've chosen the specific offer and position that this sort of enterprise client within that field, pick your channel, and then pick the metric that's going to drive you to revenue, but ultimately then measure revenue. And then the second part of numbers is context. There's always a structural thing to understand in a number, like economies of scale in ad spend is one that's quite regular, or you're speaking about the difference between overseas markets and local markets. So for example, if you are structurally spending 10,000 Rand a month on a management fee with an agency, but of that budget you're then going and spending 8,000 Rand a month on the advertising budget, your chance for success there is just low. You're setting yourself up and them to fail. So you want really, I don't know, we see a regular trend of about 160% above that ad spend metric. But then structurally, you're competing. You're competing with other people who are spending money too, and you're bidding on a cost per click basis. Do you have sufficient war chest to adequately compete? Do you have sufficient war chest for your strategist and for the algorithm itself, because it's so algorithmic now, whether it's Meta ads or Google ads or whatever else, to compete too? And are you taking those benchmarks and then when you go overseas, kind of holding them the same? Because the economies of scale and the competitiveness is going to change there as well. And the third thing on data, which I always find hugely important, is, Michelle mentioned it earlier, it's first-party data. So we're looking at a tool, we're looking at search trends, we're looking at Ahrefs or SEMrush. It's numbers in the air. They're thumb-sucking it, and you'd be appalled as to how bad their data collection and all the places that they're farming data actually are. Your numbers matter. If you've been running a Google Ads campaign, that can inform your SEO campaign because you know which search terms work, what they actually cost, what that actual customer acquisition cost is. So first-party numbers, and yeah, I mean the cheat code, the first-party numbers that matter are customer acquisition cost, average customer lifetime. You know, if you sat down right now, or if I was to pick out anyone in the crowd here, could you give me those two figures? Because as business people, and we're business people as well, we know we kind of get on that hamster wheel, and we're so focused into one thing and into an overall effort or into a vanity metric, and we don't actually know that number. What does it cost me to get a customer? How long do my customers stick around?
I think you've said the very dirty word in this room of revenue. How dare you? But it's one of those things that sometimes you're right. We do forget, we get so much in the activations and activities and all the things we could be doing that we forget that we are a business function and we are there to support business goals, which ultimately is bottom line, improving the revenue. It's something that I have to, I should put it above my mirror when I'm brushing my teeth because I get so excited about new content and new strategies that I forget it's got to be serving that ultimate purpose. Maybe we can move on to talk a little bit more about content, and because something that I, as a content creator, love to talk about. So it's my podcast. We'll do what I say. See, so not being funny is also it's okay. It's fine. Michelle, we have a lot of AI tools available now. And actually, there's a question for all three of you. We've been talking a lot about AI in the last few hours. It's unavoidable when it comes to digital marketing specifically. But does the advent of all of these new AI tools mean that marketing teams no longer have to be as big or maybe have as much of a budget? Are we seeing those budgets shrink because of AI?
So I think what is amazing about AI is the fact that it's made content accessible to everyone. The bad thing about AI is that it's made content accessible to everyone, right? So the point is now everyone is putting out good quality content into the same spaces where your people were previously, in a space that was probably not as crowded as it is today. And so I think it's absolutely true. You're probably going to pay less for content. But the reality is now that budget is going to shift from creating content to making sure that people are seeing your content, right? So I don't know about you guys, but we're experiencing that all the channels is a volume game at the moment. So we have some campaigns where we're literally A/B testing about 40 to 50 ads at a time to see what is resonating with who and where those customers are. So I think we are spending less on content, but we're going to be spending more on getting that content and that story in front of the right people in a very crowded market.
So then practically, maybe for all three of you, what tools are your teams actually using? Not advertising tools, but we can just, if there are any tools that you're like...
I can tell you.
Yeah, super, that you're like, these are the 2 or 3 that we use that are most harmful. If you say Canva, no one will judge you because that's what we all use. But yes, someone uses Canva a lot in the room. What tools are you using? And then, you're talking about the fact that these channels are super saturated now, not just with the slop, but actually with some good stuff. How are you ensuring that those bits of content that you are making really do stand out? Maybe Lisa, if you could start us off.
So in terms of the tools that I use, it depends on the budget of the client. If they have a big budget, I'm absolutely hiring camera operators, professional editors. If they have a smaller budget, it is Lisa on her iPhone using CapCut and Instagram's new edit tool, which I really, really like. I don't know who in the room's used that. Has anybody been? Oh, I see nodding heads. I kind of love it. It did glitch for me yesterday. It just decided that there was no speaking whatsoever in my video, so there were no captions needed. So that was about an hour-long fight with edits, which I lost. So those are kind of my go-to tools. Or it's like I said, a professional team of people capturing video content. ChatGPT is my friend. I'm not going to lie. I absolutely love ChatGPT. It has sped up my content production process astronomically. And I think the advice that's been really, really helpful, which absolutely makes sense, is you can't rely on ChatGPT to give you a voice or a thought leadership point. You need to generate that as the human. So I think you do still need your copywriting skills so that you can be a good editor of ChatGPT. So that's really, really sped everything up. So I really enjoyed that. And then you've made another question at the end of that. You asked one.
Just how do you make sure that those pieces of content do stand out in the
So that's where I think we need to, be the comedians in this world and pull all these things together to come up with something really interesting and unique. That opening hook, which we all know about, we've heard it spoken about so many times, is so, so key. And coming up with a fresh angle and not just doing everything that you see everyone else doing. I mean, the name of the game of marketing is defining the difference, right? That's literally how you do good marketing, is making sure that you stand out, or you help your clients' brands to stand out. So I think that same element is true of creating content. And just, really, it's an attention game. I feel like somebody said that earlier. It's an attention game. So you really have to think about, am I going to get attention with this piece of content I'm about to make? And do you want to share it as a consumer? Do you actually want to watch this and share it with your friends? If the answer is no, maybe you shouldn't be making it.
So for attention, if you were, say, a podcast host that decided to grow an afro, as that wasn't part of the strategy. It's just a great strategy. Jonty, what about you? Are you finding that your teams, because I know obviously you're in the more business development side, but are you seeing your teams using AI tools in their development, in their strategies?
Yeah, and the marketing managers are going to love this in the room. It's the simple ones we use at the moment, depending on use case. Reloom is lovely for basic wireframing. You put in a few prompts, it'll spit out a whole website. Layout, awesome for design, awesome to engage with. Writing copy on a Google Doc is still mostly how it's done. When prepping or building a new website and you can't visualize it, you can't see what it's going to look like. If you really want to zero into AI visibility, so you want your clients to find you on ChatGPT. The best tool we're finding for that's called Peek, PEEC.ai. We run all of our AI visibility demos there. It's this whole transference of the SEO world onto the LLMs and the chatbots. What else is cool? Yeah, I think it's also worth saying when to use a tool. Like, we all feel this obligation in this room right now, and you're getting directive from someone to AI something, don't. Like, unless you're kind of in this right zone of, I've tested this thing, it's not going to be an overinvestment relative to the existing process in place. There's an equal risk of overinvestment as there is in underinvestment. So understanding whether you're in that threshold, and then testing. So instead of just going and buying and plugging a thing in, be testing, be trying, be on forums, be on LinkedIn, see what other people are using, try it for yourself. Free trials are your friend.
Nice. I love the fact that AI has now become a verb, like I'm going to AI this thing. We live in the future, people. What about yourself, Michelle?
I love AI and I love how accessible it is. And this is probably not for every single digital marketer out there, but we've actually built a tool, not a commercial one, one that we use ourselves. And we've used Lovable to build it. But essentially what it does is you can put in your ideal customer. What is the term you used? ICP or whatever?
Oh, yeah. Today'll be a day of jargon.
Yeah.
It's just the ICP on the...
Yeah, on the ECJ and the BBS. I don't know. So you pull in your ideal customer, you pull in your strategy that you do once a year, and every year you dust it off and you update it and so on. And you pull in various other parts of the business, kind of like strategy, and using like different models, including Claude, Gemini, all the various parts of it, deep search, images, videos, whatever. It will then do research around where you want to advertise, and then it will spit out a media plan and also potentially 50 variations of ads in very much the Alex Hormozi way. So you'll have like 3 components, which means putting those formulas together, you'll have 500 different ads, which we are now hoping to automatically push into our AI system, which is a campaign manager, optimizes it, and then sees which is the right ad. Once you have that, you can then, I feel, brief an agency very specifically about what that story must be, what that person must look like. And all of those, ideally, should then speak back to... so we used it all, and we built something to...
It does help when you are part of a tech company, because you can... Anyone thought, oh, you know what, I'll go home and develop that tool for myself?
So I have to say, like, Lovable,
Yeah.
You know Lovable, right? It is unbelievable. Like, you don't have to be a tech person. You don't have to write a single piece of code, and you can create something amazing. Try it.
You can build an app having a conversation.
Yeah.
So if you do want to build something internally, and I don't know, a website or a front end is one kind of cost. But if you're looking to build a system internally or an app, and it's now needing to be on Android and it needs to be on iPhone and iOS and wherever else, it's going to be an expensive exercise. With Lovable, you can build an app having a conversation, take that to a developer, and turn that into something. In a matter of lines.
That's a pro tip, Lovable. So let's maybe move away. I know this is terrible, but let's move away from digital marketing for a second, but kind of stay in the same space. Lisa, you've actually tried approaching for more in-person events when it comes to marketing?
I think there's signals indicating that we're leaning that way, if not right now, shortly. Mark Cuban predicted that with the influx of AI content, we are going to struggle more and more to discern what is real. Because right now you can kind of watch an AI piece of content and know, yeah, that's AI. That's not really Donald Trump. So we still have that ability, or maybe it is. We still have that ability to discern, no, that's all fake. Unless you're about 70, you think it's all real. But for the people in this room, we're probably still quite discerning. In the next few years, it's going to get so good, you will not be able to know. And so Mark Cuban's prediction is that as our digital world gets really difficult to discern, for lack of another word, we are going to then gravitate towards what we know is real. And what we know is real is someone standing in front of us that we can smell, touch, hopefully not taste, but see them and engage with them. And until Elon Musk brings out humanoid robots that really look human, we're still safe in the face-to-face space. So there is that prediction from that perspective. Gary Vaynerchuk has also predicted that another signal coming our way is Gen Alpha unplugging. So they are going full IRL experience because they obviously realize there's such a need for community and connection and being human together and being in each other's presence together. So his prediction is that is going to then filter into the other generations. So between Mark Cuban saying we're going to really need something real and Gen Alpha already unplugging, there's absolutely being predicted this trend of needing to be in each other's faces, So yeah, it is coming.
I mean, I suppose it's telling that the Digital Marketing Conference is in person. And I can see all your faces. I'm a real boy. I'm not AI generated. I'm not hologram, if only. The issue then is that obviously my job title, this isn't my full-time job, my real job is a digital marketing specialist. So are you telling me then that maybe I'll be out of a job or I have to pivot to be more of a traditional marketer? How does digital marketing and these face-to-face events interact with each other?
So I wish I could remember this woman's name. There's a woman overseas who started a business and her point of difference was everything started as IRL, in real life. And there were events, so it was face-to-face connections. And her marketing went from IRL to digital. And I think a lot of us have been caught in the trend of digital, and then maybe we'll do some in real life, face-to-face points of contact or activations. And so that's possibly something to think about strategically, is should you be reframing how you're doing your strategy and how you're thinking about this brand and how it connects with human beings, and should that involve more face-to-face activations?
Yeah, and on that kind of reverse journey, that's lovely on it, like going IRL onto a digital platform. It's fantastic as a concept, but how do we do that, or what does that look like? Trust signals, reviews, case studies. If you don't know what to post, like what is terrific content, post your best case study. People are interested in that. There's going to be an equivalent customer out there who wants that same service. They see that call to action. It's a simple formula for them. They did it for someone else, they can do it for me. So anything that transfers from an IRL type engagement is really becoming more and more prevalent. And the irony, if we go deeper into the AI visibility side of things or on the GEO side of things, is the ranking factors or the things that are being pulled. What gets you onto ChatGPT as opposed to what gets you onto an SEO SERP. They are farming trust factors all over the place. Forums, Clutch, G2, Capterra, Google reviews. On a purely, as a case study, as a purely review-driven strategy, we've just collected reviews from clients left, right, and center since last year, October, and we've grown our lead market to 15% of leads now coming through AI. And that's been the main source.
So really using social proof as that bridge between in IRL to the digital side. I was thinking, should I change this podcast to just the South African marketing podcast? Is this the first episode of the South African marketing podcast? No, it's going to stay. Sorry, Michelle, you were going to say something.
Yeah, so I think marketers love budgets, right? And I think that is why we break it down into channels, because there has to be so much has to be spent on digital and so much to be spent on whatever. But the reality is those channels are actually irrelevant. Brené Brown says we're hardwired for connection, and we must not forget our job as marketers is to connect with people so that we can build trust, so that we can help them with the service or a product. And in your case, it might be face-to-face, it might be reviews. It's irrespective of the channel. If you can connect with your customer, it totally is a win. Just we're doing a whole drive for new clients this year, and my strategy was to drop off biscuits that had an imprint of a swear word on it, and that's got me 3 clients. People are done.
Yeah, we're all kind of looking for something that's real and tangible in a world like we were talking about earlier, but in a world that's kind of full with AI. intangibles when you're able to give them an actual biscuit. Lisa, you...
I want to jump in and just
Please
raise
do.
something that I learned from Stephen Bartlett, who's the host of the podcast Diary of a CEO. She seemed to be the brand manager. I can never quite work out what her title was. She's spun off and started doing her own thing. But she raised the signal that community has kind of been the buzzword of 2025. And so I think that's kind of a really big driver that as marketers we need to be aware of and thinking about. And sure, there's ways to build digital community, but I think you can do both. I don't think it just has to be digital. So I think, if that word enters our zeitgeist and our thinking going forward into 2026, I think that's going to be really useful. Like, how are we building actual community with our customer base?
So we've mentioned clients a few times. Specifically, Michelle, you were saying that you were looking for more clients, aren't we all? With marketing budgets internally going down, John T, maybe you can help us out here, because are agencies able to be picky about the clients that they have, considering that you might not be sure there's another one around the corner? Are you able to say, you're not the right fit for my agency?
Well, we've actually got a client in the cloud. And I've spotted one, and I'm sure there's a couple others as well. Lovely thing about a big team is I bump into a new client every day. I can't speak for everyone else in the industry, but in our case, yes, and we are. Fit is imperative for anything. For a hire, for a new business offering, square pegs and round holes don't work. So we have that luxury, and we choose our clients and have those conversations, and it's either, yes, we can help you, let's go deep into this, let's build out a strategy, or no, we're not going to be the right team to help you, what's the next best place? What I would say, though, if that's not a luxury you have, is I still think you can't afford not to be picky, whether it's agency or otherwise, because it'll become a cascading bad thing.
But you need to eat, John T. Seriously.
Sorry, there was a comma. You don't need to eat John T. You need to eat, comma, John T. So that is, I guess, the tension that agency owners would be having, right? Is you still have targets to reach, revenue targets, as much as every other company would. But finding that right fit does seem to be important. In talking to a lot of agencies, and some of them on the show, it sounds so cool when I say that. They are very concerned about their own image, and I guess this is maybe where you're going. Where if you don't have the right fit, the product that you're creating for that client won't be great. You won't get that great review that you've given them good service, and then the next client might not be a great one either. So you might be entering that spiral of descent. So I can totally understand why being picky is important. There is that tension, though, with the bottom line. In dealing with clients, though, and Michelle, I'm going to come to you, but I would love to hear from John T. and Lisa. Are you finding that the clients that you're working with have a better understanding in 2025 of normal digital marketing strategy than maybe they did 5 years ago? Or are they as, I don't know, dense? Because I do find, I still talk to people about the work that I do. Like, I'll talk to my wife about it, and she's an incredibly smart person, does not know what I am talking about. But are you finding that maybe your clients, you're coming into these meetings originally and they have a kind of idea of what's going on? Maybe, Lisa, do you have?
It depends on the client. It depends how old they are, what generation they're from. There's so many factors. So, I don't think for me, in the work I'm doing, that there's a blanket yes or no. Generally, there is education that's needed. There'll be questions, because, if you're in marketing, we're all on LinkedIn, we're watching the trends, we're on social media, maybe avoiding TikTok if we can help it. So we are a bit more au fait with what's happening out there. So, of course, there's going to be elements of education needed. But, I just worked with a client where the CEO and the product manager were pretty open. Like, they really knew what was cooking, and they said to me at the start of our work together, we could do this, but we've realized it would cost us more to be doing the marketing than if we just focused on what our area of genius is. So I really love that. So you're kind of pulling a bit faster and harder together when the client is kind of on the same page and knows a bit more. There are more frustrations when the client knows less. It is a lot harder to do work with them.
But you deal specifically with founders quite often in the work that you do in various ways. Founders, especially when they're just starting, Michelle and I were speaking earlier about when Advice got started 6 years ago, that initial start when your team is small, maybe it's you and with one other person, those founders need to know about every aspect of the business, including marketing. So, and hopefully, John T, you can also answer, even though your clients are here, does that mean that founders are actually harder to work with because they have enough information to be dangerous? In your experience, Lisa, are they easier to work with or harder?
I'm going to have to say for this one as well, it depends on the personality, and it depends on if they know their weaknesses and their strengths and they know when to butt out and hand it over to you and trust you. And this, again, referring to the specific client, like brilliant CEO, likes to put his oar in, likes his finger in all the pies, but he would always say, here's what I would like the website copy to look like, but Lisa, it's yours. You own it. Do whatever you want. If you want to ignore everything I've said, it's your prerogative. And so I kind of love that because you want to know what they think, you want their input, but then for them to really trust you and know, yes, I know a lot about this, but you probably know more, and you've got an angle and a perspective that is different to mine and is offering genuine value. So I kind of love that. So that's my sweet spot.
Do you have the feeling that they're going to be a good client before they sign on the dotted line, or is it sometimes like it's a little bit of a roll of the dice? I'm speaking as someone who's never actually run his own agency, so I'm fascinated in how clients are brought on side and how you deal with them, especially in that initial meeting process. But do you, in negotiating and in meeting them before contracts are signed, do you have a sense, oh wait, this is a mistake?
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate if I jump in on this one. I've got the benefit of being able to speak to marketing managers and business people every day, and we've got consistent stream of leads. I have 2 or 3 of those conversations every day. You have no idea when they come through the inquiry or the lead form, and this is maybe another pro tip, is like the wealthiest people or big business people, they will come in off an email address with shoddy spelling, and they hatchet job their phone number when they put it on the form because they don't care. They've got no one to impress. They don't need to show up in that whole way. And then they jump in on the call, you ask them 3 questions, and I realize I'm out of my depth. When they are on call, yes, you get a sense of people. Yeah. And how they communicate or their goals and what they're looking to achieve in that, you get a sense of people. Awesome.
I have one more question for all 3 of you, as in one question that I hope all of you can answer. Michelle, if you wouldn't mind starting us off. You've now onboarded a new client. What do you do in the first hour you have with your new client? What happens in that first hour?
So maybe just to give some context, I think because ad tech is kind of like at the end of the whole marketing process, I think that our getting clients is slightly different. So most of the clients that we've got is like purely online and very little human contact until they are totally on the platform. We are transitioning into MarTech, which means it's more of the human connection and meeting clients in that sense. So for us, the first kind of like hour that we have with that client after they've signed and paid up front is understanding their business to kind of like quite a granular degree. So that whole process that I explained previously, where we need to understand who your customer is, we need to understand what your objectives are for the business, we need to understand like what other people in the business feel and think and want and dream, and what is available in the market. So for us, it's important. It doesn't take an hour. It probably takes about 15 minutes to collect that information, but that for us is the most critical, is understanding that customer, and then from there, we can then start.
What about yourself, Lisa?
Very similar.
Yeah.
So I like to ask the question of what is happening out there. And the beautiful thing about being in marketing is you are not the industry expert. You have no idea often what's happening in the industry. So it's a beautiful time to get your client to just divulge everything that they know, they're seeing, they're noticing, and to get the decision makers in the room and everyone who's going to have an opinion about the marketing at some point. I kind of like to have them all together because the worst thing is you decide on a direction and then people start putting their oar in later and not enjoying it because they weren't part of that strategy session. So I would say the kind of Venn diagram of what's happening out there in the world, what's happening internally, and then who is your ideal customer or client, and then throwing that all together and seeing where all of that overlaps. That's what I would do first.
And finally, Jonty, what about yourself?
Yeah, I've got an old customer service approach. I just believe in raw energy. Like and
Teasers.
it's the same, yeah. Like,
We know where
it's the
Michelle will be later, ladies and gentlemen.
a real comedian. It's the same for any of you guys out there. If someone signed on to a thing and spent money and put energy into it, show you care, over-communicate. Really, really just hold their hand in those initial steps and show our team is going to be on this. We're going to be communicative. They know it's performative. That's fine. People like that sort of attention, and it's appropriate, I think, to really just go and put your best foot forward.
Well, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our time together. Thank you so much for being in a fantastic... Can I just say, you are the first official live audience of the South Africa Digital Marketing Podcast. You've been amazing. Thank you so much. And a big thank you, of course, to my guests, Lisa, Jonty, and Michelle. A big round of applause for our experts today. Thank you so much.